All right, let's move on to the guy that has requested a trade. In fact, he continues to dig his heels, Deshaun Watson. We're going to call this next part the Wheel of Watson. Here's how it works, Will Brinson. We're going to spin the wheel. The teams on there, according to Sportsline, have the best odds to land him. Will Brinson, whatever team it lands on, you will then break down how Watson would or would not fit with that team. So it is time for the Wheel of Watson. Producer Jack, spin it away. The Jets come up first, Will Brinson. They do have the #2 overall pick in the draft. You get Sam Darnold. So do you trade out of that pick? Do you get rid of Sam Darnold and try to get Deshaun Watson? What do you do?
Yeah, I think if you're the Jets, you look at this as a way to really, inject some life into your organization to get that franchise quarterback that you've been, searching for years. I mean, they've tried so many, early round picks: Mark Sanchez, Christian Hackenberg. That worked out well. I think Pete Prisco gave the Hackenberg pick an A, by the way. And of course, obviously Sam Darnold at #2 overall. Now, if you can pull off this deal, if you're the Jets, and you can make the trade without having to give up Mekhi Becton or Quinnen Williams, then I'm probably okay with it, assuming you don't have to give up too many draft picks. You're so loaded with picks because of the trade of Jamal Adams to Seattle that you can, justify giving away #2 overall, Sam Darnold, maybe a first next year in exchange for Deshaun Watson because he's that big a difference maker. He'd also look great in green. I think he'd look very nice, compliment his eyes maybe even perhaps if he was in that Jets green. And of course, the New York draw for him, I think, would be very appealing because Deshaun Watson would be able to grow his brand, be able to, acquire endorsements that he might not be able to get elsewhere, and he would be in the spotlight. And I think he would thrive there. Around him, not a ton of talent, so you need to beat that up a bit. But Joe Douglas doing a good job. So I like the Jets as a fit, and I think they should be one of the favorites.
It's a nice forest green that would bring out his eyes, something like that. All right, Will Brinson, that is the Jets. Let's spin the wheel again. The Wheel of Watson. Where else could he land? The Dolphins. All right, well, this is something right after he requested a trade. Everybody was talking about the Dolphins. Throw 2 in there, throw some other people in there. Bring Watson over to Miami. Do you see this actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, this makes a lot of sense too. Miami, like New York, a very cool city. Big, you can expand your brand. You can go down there. You can get endorsements, et cetera. There's no state income tax. That has to be a plus. And, so you don't have to worry about losing too much money in the trade if you're Deshaun Watson. And for the Dolphins, same sort of deal where they have a ton of first-round picks, a ton of draft capital, and they have a recently drafted, early first-round guy in Tua who they could send back. Tua maybe even more appealing for the Texans because of his rookie contract status. Sam Darnold, you have to figure things out pretty quickly in terms of money for him if you made that swap. The one thing for me, and maybe this is just me, Amanda, but I'm a spiteful person, and I wouldn't, if I was Houston, I wouldn't want to get my picks back in exchange for Deshaun Watson. I basically flipped Deshaun Watson for Laramie Tunsil. That's when all of a sudden you have to stop and take a look around and realize, are we doing this correctly or not? But they have a great young defense. With the Patriots, certainly taking a step back. And the Bills are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but the division more wide open than it has been in the last 20 years before Tom Brady took off. We saw Miami compete for a playoff spot last year, and there's a lot of nice. I think Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki. They have some really nice pieces where Deshaun Watson could jump in and flourish early on. So yeah, this makes a ton of sense as a fit if the price is right for Houston.
Speaking of the prices, Will, I think you would be a better game show host than me. Can you announce to spin the wheel next for the next team?
Yeah. Coming up next, the Deshaun Watson Wheel of Destiny. Carolina Panthers. Am I supposed to tee myself up here? Sure, I'll do it.
Sure, why not? Go for it.
What I need is one of these little, little mics that they give us for the telethon every year down in Fort Lauderdale. Hope we're back, back in the fall for that. The Panthers make a lot of sense. Close to Deshaun Watson's, home, obviously very close to his college in Clemson, and they have a good young team. there were some issues in terms of the offensive line, but a lot of weapons there. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel's a free agent. Maybe they'll try and bring him back. Robbie Anderson played really well. Of course, Christian McCaffrey, who may or may not be involved in the compensation there. The Texans do love their running backs. I think the one concern if you're Carolina is that, do you have to give up too much? Like, can this get done with an 8? First next year, Brian Burns, if you want to give him up, he's an ascending young pass rusher still on his rookie deal. And then maybe Teddy Bridgewater, who gives the Texans a nice floor at quarterback. I'll tell you this, the Panthers are very, 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 very interested in being aggressive in this quarterback market. David Tepper, and I hope this doesn't sound out of turn, but this is on the internet. This is a real thing. David Tepper, in his previous life at Appaloosa Management, had a giant pair of brass testicles is shaped for him and put on his desk. He is an aggressive man by nature. He wants to make a big, bold move, and I think that he will be interested in this quarterback market. They tried to get involved in Matthew Stafford. I think they want to get involved in Deshaun Watson. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were trying to go after these big-name quarterbacks to really accelerate Matt Rule's stay in Carolina and to jumpstart it in what's really an unprecedented time to acquire quarterbacks. I think, even though he's not on the list, if Russell Wilson would be interested in it, I certainly think they'd pursue him as well.
I'm floored by that. Thank you for sharing with us everything you read on.
Term. I don't know how else to say it.
All right, let's spin the wheel again. Let's keep moving on. The 49ers, all right, he just goes a little bit south here. The 49ers would then move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you think about Deshaun Watson to the 49ers, Will?
Yeah, this would be really interesting because it would be a domino effect that, it cascades, right? So they trade Deshaun Watson to the 49ers, and all of a sudden then is Jimmy Garoppolo going back to New England? How does this affect other pieces out in the market? I mean, I really think this would be fun, right? I mean, Deshaun Watson playing for Kyle Shanahan. Now, the one thing that you worry a little bit about with Watson there is he going to slot into that system and operate the system without, you don't want to have him freelancing too much. That's one of the things he likes to do. He likes to, hold the ball for a long time, try to extend plays. Does Kyle Shanahan want him doing that? Maybe he does. We'll see. But Kyle Shanahan schemes guys open, and Deshaun Watson, with those open looks, would put up massive numbers. I mean, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, this would be a very, very fun fit. I think the one problem for the 49ers is, do they have enough draft capital? Is their pick high enough to make the move? Because you could send Jimmy Garoppolo back to Houston, certainly. And remember, Nick Caserio was part of, was in New England when they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. But, you are talking about like a low draft pick relative to the other teams involved. And I think if you're Houston and you're making this move where you're sending Deshaun Watson somewhere else, I mean, you're taking a massive PR hit, and you would probably like to use one of those high picks to go ahead and acquire another quarterback, whether it's a Zach Wilson, a Trey Lance, a Justin Fields, if you're Ryan Wilson, a Mac Jones, who you'd, I guess, take at number 8 or whatever, which seems insane, but that's neither here nor there. The point being is that the 49ers might not have enough in the tank to get the Texans where they need to be to get that extra quarterback. That could make this swap tough.
Well, Brinson, you have one more spin on the wheel of Watson. Spin it right now. The Broncos. All right, how do you like this? You get Drew Lock. You got the number 9 pick overall in the draft. I think they have 9 total selections in the draft, but is all of that enough, or do you just stick with Drew Lock?
Well, I mean, look, this is not a case of, oh, we love Drew Lock. I mean, the 49ers love Jimmy Garoppolo. We can get Deshaun Watson. I mean, that's the reality of it. Like, you're talking about acquiring a player who, you hope that Drew Lock ever becomes, and Drew Lock is an aggressive, like gunslinger type. Like, I mean, you hope that Drew Lock could ever become as good as Deshaun Watson has been. So it is not a knock on Drew Lock, who I do think has, he's controversial in terms of people's opinions about him, but I think he's got upside. I like him as a player, but certainly, take some chances and probably needs, a more conservative offense around him and maybe a better offense around him. But there are a ton of fun pieces there in Denver. If you were to add Deshaun Watson to the Broncos roster, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Courtland Sutton, Noah Fant. I mean, they would be cooking with gas on offense if they added him. They have plenty on defense too, and it's a tough division with the Raiders being a team that can compete. The Chargers having Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes being with Kansas City. I mean, imagine Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes in the same division. No offense, Derek Carr. I mean, that's pretty incredible quarterbacking talent there if it were to happen. Again, I don't think maybe Denver doesn't have enough pieces there, but if they're willing to consider like a Jerry Jeudy type as part of the package back, or maybe one of their younger defensive players, that could potentially work. But I think they're a little similar to San Francisco in that the Texans are probably looking for that really high pick in return if they're going to send Deshaun Watson out and take the hit that will come with doing so.
9, not maybe high enough. All right, Brinson, I'm not sure if you won a toaster oven or a car, somewhere in between. Thank you so much for playing the Wheel of Watson.
How about a Top Shot pack?
Yes, you and Jack, our producer Jack, can talk about that off the air because I think the whole thing is ridiculous. What is not ridiculous, however, is the Big Six podcast hosted by our good friend Will Brinson and the crew. Everything about the ongoings in the NFL. Make sure to download and subscribe.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.